Shalawam, Shalawam, Yasharahla, Shalawam, Shabbat, Shalawam, all praises. Let's go through some scriptures, Yasharahla, in regards to, taking ourselves out of sleep, this slumber. Because you see, most of our people are still within this sleep, this deep sleep, which the scriptures will make a better account of even me just trying to go into it. This is why I never speak my own words. So let's go for the scriptures, Yasharahla. Awake out of sleep, Yasharahla. So we would go start off with Romans. We want chapter 13 and verse 11. So that's Romans chapter 13, verse 11. Romans chapter 13, verse 11. And that thou, knowing the time that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. So you see, we must snap out of the slumber, this deep sleep that has been placed upon us. Because for one, we have been taught lies. Everything in this society is based in lies. It's all vain. So we must find out, for example, who we are as a nation of people, and then live that, because then that is the truth. Because you live, that's what the truth is. Because we're going to live these laws, statutes, and commandments, which becomes our history, heritage, and our culture. So that makes the nation. Apart from the bloodline, that makes the nation. You see? So we have to awake out of this slumber. Most of our people walking around still thinking they're Jamaican, Barbadian, Trinidadian, Cuban, Puerto Rican, Mexican, South American, North American. They think they're everything. It's crazy. Everything except for what they truly are. So to be in that slumber is to be destroyed. So we're going to go into it a little bit more, Yasharahla. I'll read this verse again as the kicker. So, Romans chapter 13 and 11. And that knowing the time that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. All praises. Now let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and 34. First Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 34. Awake to righteousness, and sin not, for some have not the knowledge of God. I speak this to your shame. Because it is shameful to not know. To just be clueless to everything. To be blind to who you are. To be blind to know you have a God. Blind. Deep slumber. Sleep. It's too much. We need to snap out of it, Yasharahla. So I'll go again. Romans chapter 13 and 11. I'll go back to Romans chapter 13 and 11, and then I'll come back down to verse Corinthians. Because it's a serious trip. We need to get it right, Yasharahla. So Romans chapter 13 and 11. And that knowing the time that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. So now we go back to Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 15 and 34. Awake to righteousness and sin not, for some have not the knowledge of God. I speak this to your shame. Hosea chapter 4 and 6, Yasharahla. Hosea chapter 4 and 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no more priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. Which is a shameful thing to have occurred upon the nation of Israel. It is time to awake out of sleep now, Israel. Let's awake out of sleep, Israel. So all this was going to happen regardless, because from the moment we went into sin and these curses overtook us, all these things were going to happen. So is our awakening going to happen? For that also is written. So from there, Yasharahla, we go to Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I have gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. So when you say, oh, why are we in this situation, Israel? We violated the laws of the Most High Yahweh, and these are the punishments, the evil that would come upon us, as referred to in the prior lesson that I did with Nehemiah. You can go back and check that video. Very insightful. But yes, again, I'll read this again, Yasharahla. Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemy in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. So understand that we violated the Most High, and we kindled a fire in him and made him angry. Hence, the punishments that we have had to be and endure. So we now know this. So awake, awake, Israel, and let us go and serve our God. So from here, Israel, I'll go to Isaiah chapter 1 and 4. So Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 4. Sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupted. They have forsaken Yahweh. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. So that's what's happened to us. We have gone away backwards. So let's go forward, Yasharahla. To still be going backwards is to remain in sleep, remain in slumber. We're not there. Let's get out of that. Move forward in the name of Mashiach Yahweh Shai. So Israel, from Isaiah we want Zephaniah chapter 2 and 1. Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired from top. Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Before decree bring forth before the day pass, and the chaff before the fierce anger of Yahweh come upon you, and before the day of Yahweh's anger come upon you. So we know to anger, to kindle a fire in our Father, is to cause all this evil to come upon us. We can't be dozy and sleeping and just wallowing in sin. Get out. We have to get out of that, Yasharahla. So right, from Zephaniah, Yasharahla, let's go to Joel chapter 1 and 5. So we want Joel chapter 1 and verse 5. And Joel chapter 1 and 5 says, Awake ye drunkards, and weep and howl all ye drinkers of wine, because of the new wine, for it is cut off from your mouth. That is going into a few things, but for me to go into that would take away from the class. However, I'll stick with it. I'll read it again and I'll give you a little extra on there. So we want Joel chapter 1 and verse 5. Awake ye drunkard, and weep and howl, all ye drinkers of wine, because of the new wine, for it is cut off from your mouth. Basically, them can't get the new wine. So we want Ephesians chapter 5 and 14, Yasharahla. Ephesians chapter 5 and 14. Wherefore he saith, Awake, thou that sleepeth, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. You see? So again, wherefore he saith, Awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. Because you're dead, walking dead, when you have no sense of self, when you totally don't know who you are, you're not serving your God, you're wallowing in sin, you're in the dust. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and 6, Yasharahla. So 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and the verse 6. Therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. That is beautiful. Let us watch and be sober. Because we know all things. We actually know all things. We already know the end. So let's do the things that are required of us to bring forth that end. I'll read that again, Yasharahla. So that's 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and 6. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. Now, Yasharahla, I'll close out with Matthew. Matthew chapter 9 and 17, because that clears it up. We can't be no more in this deep sleep. It's time to awake out of this slumber, Yasharahla. So we want Matthew chapter 9 and verse 17. So in Matthew chapter 9 and the 17, neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottle break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. You see, some of our people cannot get it. Old bottles, they cannot get it. All this is just new to them. It's too new. When this thing is magnified, they can't get it. They can't stomach it. They spit it back up. Old bottles. But that's another class, Yasharahla. So I bid you, Yasharahla, farewell until the next class. Shalawam.